The Madeira Miracle: How a Poor Boy's Heart Defied Destiny. A historical analysis of Cristiano Ronaldo's ascension from the margins of society to global supremacy. In the annals of sporting history, few narratives rival the meteoric transformation of a scrawny boy from Portugal's forgotten island into the world's most recognizable athlete. The story of Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro reads like a medieval tale of triumph against impossible odds, yet it unfolded in the harsh economic realities of 1990s Europe, where class barriers seemed as impenetrable as castle walls. The island at the edge of the world picture, if you will. The volcanic island of Madeira in 1985, a speck of Portuguese territory floating 600 miles, southwest of Lisbon, closer to the coast of Morocco than to mainland Europe. Here, in the working-class neighborhood of Santo Aveiro, Maria Dolores dos Santos Aveiro brought her fourth child into a world that offered little promise beyond back-breaking labor and perpetual financial struggle. The Portugal of Ronaldo's birth was still emerging from the shadows of Salazar's authoritarian regime, which had ended barely a decade earlier. The nation's peripheral regions, particularly islands like Madeira, remained economic backwaters where families like the Aveiros scraped together existence through multiple menial jobs. His father, Dinis Aveiro, tended municipal gardens and worked as a kit man at a local football club, earning wages that historian Rui Ramos would later describe as subsistence-level compensation that trapped entire generations in cyclical poverty. But it was within this crucible of limitation that young Cristiano's obsession with football would emerge as both escape route and salvation. The boy who would later command transfer fees exceeding the GDP of small nations spent his earliest years kicking makeshift balls through the narrow cobblestone streets of Funchal streets that seemed to lead nowhere beyond the Atlantic's endless horizon. The heart that nearly stopped a dream at age 15 when most promising athletes focused solely on honing their craft. Ronaldo faced a medical crisis that would have ended lesser stories before they truly began. Racing heart syndrome, a condition that caused his heart to beat irregularly at dangerous speeds, threatened to terminate his budding career at Sporting Lisbon's academy. The historical parallel is striking. Just as Napoleon's opponents hoped his epilepsy would limit his military ambitions, football's establishment might have dismissed this provincial teenager whose own body seemed to rebel against his dreams. The medical intervention required laser surgery to cauterize the problematic heart tissue, carried significant risks in an era when such procedures were far less refined than today. Dr. João Carlos Silva, the cardiologist who performed the surgery, would later reflect that he was operating on more than just cardiac tissue. "I was literally holding this boy's future in my hands." One miscalculation and Portuguese football history changes entirely. The surgery succeeded, but the psychological impact of nearly losing everything he'd worked toward would forge an iron determination that observers consistently note as Ronaldo's defining characteristic. The Lisbon Laboratory. Sporting Lisbon's academy in the late 1990s functioned as a social laboratory, bringing together Portugal's most promising young talents regardless of their economic backgrounds. For Ronaldo, arriving from Madeira at age 12 represented a cultural earthquake. His thick regional accent, rural mannerisms, and obvious poverty marked him as an outsider among teammates from more privileged backgrounds. Historical documents from the academy reveal a pattern of systematic hazing that targeted provincial players. Teammates would mock Ronaldo's accent so mercilessly that he often refused to speak during team meetings. His dormitory roommate later recalled, "Cristiano would practice speaking proper Portuguese in the mirror, trying to erase any trace of Madeira from his voice." Yet this period of social isolation proved formative rather than destructive. Sports historian Dr. Miguel Lourenço argues that Ronaldo's academy experience mirrors the classic outsider narrative found throughout Portuguese literature, the provincial hero who must master not just technical skills, but also the cultural codes of the dominant class. Like the protagonists in Saramago's novels, Ronaldo learned to navigate complex social hierarchies while maintaining his core identity. The Manchester metamorphosis, or Alex Ferguson's decision to sign 18-year-old Ronaldo in 2003 represented one of football history's most prescient investments. But the transformation that followed at Manchester United reveals deeper historical currents about globalization, media evolution, and the changing nature of athletic celebrity in the 21st century. The Manchester United of 2003 to 2009 functioned as a finishing school for global superstars, But Ronaldo's evolution transcended typical athlete development. Ferguson, a manager whose psychological acumen rivals that of great military strategists, recognized that Ronaldo's poverty-forged hunger could be channeled into unprecedented achievement levels. Training ground footage from this era shows a young man pursuing perfection with almost obsessive intensity. Former teammate Rio Ferdinand described sessions where Ronaldo would remain hours after official practice ended, repeating free-kick routines until groundskeepers literally turned off the floodlights. This behavior pattern, now standard among elite athletes, was revolutionary in early 2000s football culture, where natural talent typically trumped obsessive preparation. The historical significance becomes clearer when examining Ronaldo's emergence alongside social media's rise. His 2008 Ballon d'Or victory coincided with Facebook's global expansion and YouTube's maturation as a content platform. Unlike previous generations of football stars whose fame remained largely regional, Ronaldo became the first athlete to harness digital media for truly global brand building. The Madrid colossus Real Madrid's €94 million acquisition of Ronaldo in 2009 shattered transfer records, but the deal's historical importance extends beyond mere economics. It represented the culmination of Spain's post-Franco transformation into a modern European powerhouse, with Real Madrid functioning as the nation's most visible cultural ambassador. The 9 years that followed produced a statistical output that challenges historical precedent in professional sports. Consider this: Ronaldo scored 451 goals in 438 appearances for Real Madrid, a rate of goal production that surpasses even the most legendary figures from football's earlier eras, when defensive tactics were less sophisticated and competition levels markedly lower. But numbers alone cannot capture the historical significance of Ronaldo's Madrid period. His rivalry with Barcelona's Lionel Messi elevated Spanish football's global profile to unprecedented levels, generating television revenues that funded infrastructure improvements throughout Spain's football pyramid. Economic historians now recognize the Ronaldo-Messi effect as a significant factor in Spain's recovery from the 2008 financial crisis. The transformation of athletic excellence Ronaldo's career arc illuminates broader historical trends about human potential and systematic achievement. His physical transformation from a skinny teenager to a muscular specimen represents the convergence of sports science, nutritional advances, and psychological optimization techniques that define modern athletic performance. Dr. Sarah Roll, a sports historian at Oxford, argues that Ronaldo's career demonstrates how exceptional individuals can transcend their historical circumstances through systematic application of emerging methodologies. He represents the first generation of athletes who had access to truly scientific training methods from early ages, combined with global media platforms that could amplify their achievements worldwide. The poverty that shaped Ronaldo's early years never fully departed. It simply transformed into an engine for continuous improvement. Former teammates consistently describe his fear of returning to his origins as a motivating force that sustained him through 2 decades of elite competition. Legacy of the Madeira Miracle. Today, Cristiano Ronaldo stands as perhaps the most successful athlete in social media history, with a combined following exceeding 600 million people across platforms. His influence extends far beyond football, encompassing fashion, business, and philanthropy on scales that dwarf previous sporting celebrities. Yet the historical lesson of Ronaldo's rise remains rooted in that original contradiction. A boy whose heart nearly failed him became the most physically resilient athlete of his generation. A provincial teenager mocked for his accent became the most globally recognizable sports figure of the 21st century. A child of poverty accumulated wealth that rivals small nations' treasuries. The Madeira Miracle ultimately reveals that individual excellence, when combined with historical opportunity and systematic dedication, can indeed transcend seemingly insurmountable barriers. In an age of increasing economic inequality, Ronaldo's story provides both inspiration and historical proof that exceptional human potential can emerge from the most unlikely circumstances, transforming not just individual destinies but entire industries and cultural landscapes in the process.